The EFM podcast is brought to you by White Tip Lager.
The Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast. This week, I'm truly Chris Niemeyer. This is my voice. We're just four guys that are finally back together after a couple weeks of some fun and adventure. We're just guys that love our wives, we love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. This is the podcast to talk about those things. We're very intentional about these domains in our life. The conversations we have just revolve around this. This week, we've got a special episode. Michael, what are we talking about?
Man, I almost forgot because we first jumped on here planning to record something, and an hour and a half later, we're still just hanging out, having a good time with each other. Man, I missed you guys, even though I was insanely jealous because of where you were with your families on a cruise ship going through the Caribbean while I was home freezing my cojones off here in Buffalo.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Michael, there was one day where it dipped down into the low 70s. So we were a little bit chilly there for a minute.
It was very cold, man.
Sweatshirts for sure came out while you were.
It doesn't make me feel better at all, actually. I totally missed out, and I was feeling it when you guys were gone, even though I was happy for you. But that's what we're going to talk about today is this cruise, this whole trip that you guys took, the fun that you had without me, how that all came about and what it was like. So let's get right into this. How the heck did this thing come together? Because this was not a premeditated trip. All of a sudden, here come the text messages back and forth, and this idea of a cruise came about. How the heck did that happen?
I think it came up because there's 3 sevens and a travel agent who's married to a 7 in this group. So
That's right.
I mean, the problem with us hanging out, we're always talking about when is the next time we can open up our calendar and schedule something, whether it's either individually or with our family.
It went from an idea to a reality in a very short period of time.
I think so. I mean, I think it was probably late October, early November, where we had a conversation. We should get together first quarter of the year. And man, whether it's flying somewhere together here in the U.S. or hopping on a cruise or going somewhere exotic, let's bring our families and just kind of hang. A week or two later, I'm the travel guy. I'm scrolling through deals and I'm like, whoa, this is a pretty epic opportunity. Kids sail free on this cruise ship. It's right out here to Tampa. You guys are all direct nonstop flights from here. And so I think I texted you guys just like, hey, what do you think? This is a pretty good opportunity.
And you got to decide within 24 hours, so off you go.
Yeah. It was like a non-refundable deal. Like you had to jump on it and tag that thing. So
this boat launched out from Tampa, and where did it take you? Where'd it go?
Oh my gosh. As soon as we got into the waters, it was a gorgeous day, beautiful sailing the first day. We went around the tip of Cuba. We could hear the island calling to us. I got a ping on my phone that said suddenly if I continued to use data that it was going to be charged at, I think it was $3 a minute because I was in Cuban waters. So I jumped off the internet real quick. But we went around Cuba and we docked in port at Grand Cayman Island. Wow. That's the first time I've ever gone there. This was our 4th cruise for Rachel and I, but that was the first time we've ever gone to Grand Cayman Island. I would go back there in a heartbeat, a nanosecond. I would be back there. The sand, like brown sugar without the stickiness. There were no shells. There were no rocks. There was nothing but just this amazing sand. You could pack it like a snowball. Pristine beach. We were at 7 Mile Beach. It was just clean, waded into the water. It was like bath water. You can see your toenails peeking down through the water there. And in 5 feet of water, we're snorkeling over reefs and every kind of tropical fish imaginable. It couldn't have been any better. I was like, you know what? I'm good. You guys can go on the cruise ship. Just stop by here and pick me up on the way back.
McCluskey, I thought I was feeling better. I thought I was over this whole thing. You're just making it worse.
I told you I could go back because I'm freezing my tail off here now back in the States.
McCluskey has like special prescription glass scuba gear.
That's right.
Which is it's pretty awesome. And he was out there with his iPhone in a little case taking videos.
There's a couple of videos of us doing that snorkeling. They're just like a minute or two. It was amazing. There was a school of those fish that are like Dory. Yeah, we found Dory's family. But I was swimming with this huge school of those little fish and sit there and watch them nibble their food off of it. They didn't care that I was in there. Jamie, you popped up at one point. You're like, I see a lobster. It was so sweet and very, very heartily. But that was just the beginning, right?
No.
McCluskey comes running out of the water, all excited, and then all the kids are like, "What do you got? What do you got?" And he's like, "Don't touch it. It's my precious." So McCluskey, you can tell it, but the kids were. I think that was really cool for the kids because you let all the kids pass it around and see it, and it had some kind of inscription on it, and the kids were all trying to look and see what it said. It was buried treasure in the Caribbean, and
it was totally surreal. That video's out there on my feed as well. I was snorkeling in probably 5 feet of water, looked down, and just like in Peter Jackson's movie of The Lord of the Rings, there is this very obviously gold ring. And it's some guy's wedding ring. Poor guy, no telling how long ago he lost it because it had coral growth on it. But yeah, I just dove down, scooped it up just like in the movie, and there in my hand is this little golden ring. And it had an inscription on the inside, "My love forever," and it had the date of their wedding back in I think it was 96. No idea whose it is. If somebody saw the video, I'd love to give it back to them, but it was surreal. It was really kind of one of those, you think maybe it's junk jewelry, right? Or just a kid's ring or something. No, that's a solid gold ring there.
Wow.
Just made the whole thing all that much more magical.
Yeah. How much you get from the pawn shop?
He's holding on to it. He's turned into gold a little bit.
I could tell you this: he couldn't pawn that ring for the price that he paid for his wife's pina colada.
It was the most expensive pina colada I ever bought her, but she said it was totally worth it.
That ring scenario was just a fun highlight. This is what I love about travel, right? We've been throughout the Caribbean. That place we've been to before, Silvermount Beach, is probably our favorite beach in the Caribbean. To see it through the eyes of people that haven't seen it before and to experience it again is just cool. And so, like, to see you guys just like giddy kids, like, this is amazing. This beach is awesome. And the kids are like dug a hole to China, and part of the beach is like burying each other. I mean, they were having a blast for hours. We just got to connect. We had some great conversations on the beach. We got sunburned on certain areas because we're just like talking at this angle forever. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful time to be together.
Those beers that we had, the best beer that I've had in years.
White tip lager. I will remember that.
Only $10 for 12 ounces, but it was good.
Can we get an affiliate for that one?
It seems like a lot of people go on vacation to escape and like forget about everything. It almost sounds like this is more of a coming together than it is an escaping something.
So we had our 4 young kids all in one stateroom. Jamie brought his 4 kids. Chris and Rachel, you can talk about this more, Chris, but just had an awesome time together as a couple. Just getting to do the day together when we saw each other, and in the evenings, like all 14 of us are coming down to the dining room and dressing to the nines, and just getting to experience some really good fellowship over dinner as the couples, I think was just awesome. I mean, it's something we don't get to do enough of. We get to hang out with each other here on the screen and recordings throughout the week, but to have our wives come together was a big deal. And that was part of the reason for the trip, was just to get our spouses on board the cruise ship and on board EFM, and just this vision that we're casting together in our lives. So there were some really rich conversations around the dinner table together.
Michael, I like what you said about that we weren't really just like escaping for everything, but instead we were coming towards something. And bringing the wives was definitely a huge piece of it. Rachel and I did opt not to bring our kids on this particular one. It's the first trip we've ever taken that wasn't a conference or something where I was speaking, where I had to be working. That was just she and I. Normally the kids have come on everything that we've always done, which we've loved. But this one we chose to do together. But that notion of our wives being able to spend time together, I remember one of the nights, Rachel, when we got back to our stateroom, she said, I love your friends, and I knew I did, but I love them more now because I love seeing who you are when you're around them. She sees a greater freedom to just be myself. I'm not in business mode. I'm not in maybe whatever my persona is in the community when I'm trying to serve on boards or be in positions of influence or whatever. Just me. And that was great. And then she talked about the conversations that she had with Alicia and with Ruthie, just how sweet that fellowship was, that these are wives who get my world. They understand what it is to be the wife of an entrepreneur and to school kids at home and to have this kind of flexible lifestyle. Rachel has felt oftentimes like she kind of holds back on sharing aspects of her life because it can create an unintentional jealousy in other people. Like, oh yeah, must be nice. Wish I could do that. But here it's like, no, that's what we're doing. Yeah, we're all about it. We get it. And that's very freeing and affirming. Yeah, we were definitely moving toward a greater experience of what each of our families are all about.
It's also dangerous on the wallet, right? Because now we have found other people that we can have flexibility and go travel with. We're sitting there in the Cayman Islands having these $10 loggers. We had our annual board of directors because we're officially a corporation now. We had it in the Cayman Islands. So maybe we could set up a bank account there and launder some money or something. But I think we're already scheduled to do something at the beginning of 2020, right?
Book now. I just affirm what you both just said there. And I think that's one of the realizations we came back with was because there are not enough people in our world that have the same kind of lifestyle and flexibility and freedom and maybe some of the pressures too, to have people that are of like mind that we can share that with and banter with and talk through it and our wives talk through that. That's what we realized, boy, this would be valuable for anyone in our EFM community. It was a literal vote. We're like, hey, let's do this every year and just open it up because there's so much value in connecting with people that are in the same type of space of life. It's important. It's important to start the year that way, probably, to kind of have that perspective going into something. But Michael, you know that you were greatly missed, and we texted you from the ship like, man, so bummed that you are not here. But talk about that a little bit from your perspective, because you had some great reasons why, and we had ways that we were going to get you there. But you're in a season of life that's tough, right?
Yeah, while I had serious FOMO, I'm also feeling called to mature a little bit with what I say yes to and what I say no to. The old me, regardless of my circumstances, my financial situation, everything, I would just say, yeah, I'm in. I'll make it happen. I'll sell the car and then buy a new one when I get back. That was kind of my approach. And so I recognized some things that made it not a great idea for me to be there. I was dealing with a lot of things in my business, a lot of growth personally, and I needed some space for that stuff to take root. Also needed to just focus on some of the daily stuff within my business, some planning, some things that I know needed my attention. And it just wasn't the best season for our family as well, for Lydia and the kids. And we made that decision together. We walked through it and thought it through and prayed about it and thought, can we make this work? Is there some way that this will work? And we just landed on this idea of, no, it's just not the right time. It's not a good idea. So as hard as it was for me, I know it was the right call. And man, did I ever miss being there with you guys, because there is magic when you can get together with your entire family, not just an hour at a coffee shop, not just like a Zoom call, not just a phone call. It's the speed of life where everything's happening at once and there's all these different areas of life that intersect, and you really get to know somebody on a deeper level, even if you've already met them before and spent time with them. It was really hard to say no to, but there are seasons of life where it just doesn't make sense to do the things that you'd like to do.
Michael, I hugely affirmed you in that decision before we went, and I do again now, because I know that was something that you made not independent of your wife. The two of you talked about it together extensively. You really tried to figure out how to make it work, and you also tried to discern, is it right? Even if we can make it work, in the end, there's probably ways that you could have made it work, but you both knew it's not right for us right now, especially with, you got a baby that's like 3-4 months old, right? That would have been a bit of a challenge there with 2 other kids at the young ages. So for whatever reasons, the way you went about it, I think that's good for our listeners to be hearing. Just like with Rachel and I, we could have brought any number of the kids. We opted not to bring any of the kids for the first time. 27 years of traveling all over the world, usually bringing the kids. We chose, no, this one is just for us. There's not a one-size-fits-all or the right way to do this thing. The thing is to listen to your heart and discuss with the other half, the better half of yourself, and then pray something through. And then if it's pull the trigger, then do. Act quickly and keep moving forward.
Amen to all that. And McGreevy, when you were talking, you had the freedom to say no, because that's an abundance mindset. Because scarcity is, no, I have to go right now and sell my car because I'm not going to have the other opportunity. And you know that you're building this family, you're building this life, and you're at a stage where you have a lot of moving pieces, and that God just has incredible adventures for you and your wife, and you're going to bring your kids along on all those adventures with us. So I'm having a similar kind of revelation in my life this year that God is calling me into a season of integrity. And that's a little bit less scattered planning next week, go on an adventure, and more being on the same page with my wife. And just knowing that I don't have to make it happen myself, that God has continual adventures for me and with other people. And that's how I want to live life, with you guys and other people. So we know that you're going to be there soon with us on some more adventures. And thanks for being an example to us, buddy.
Well, thanks, guys. The decision became so much easier because I walked through that decision with you guys too. And you wanted me to be there, and I felt that, and I knew that. Yet you also saw the whole picture of my life and affirmed me in some of the things that I was feeling. And that was so valuable to me, to have that support and be able to make a decision based on what I know is right for my family and not feel pressured either way. And so thanks, guys, for your support in that arena.
You know what? Before we wrap this thing up, I'm going to toss in one more of the big golden nuggets that I brought back from that trip in particular. You know, we went to Grand Cayman the first day. We had another day at sea, and we wound up at Cozumel, and we took various excursions. We didn't all go to the same place. Rachel and I, because we didn't have kids in tow, opted to take an excursion into the mainland, about 2+ hours on a bus drive to the ruins of Chichen Itza, which is one of the old Mayan communities that they found. About 30,000 people there that lived there. The community was fully developed about 1,000 years before Christ, and it's got pyramids that rival the stuff in Egypt, and the complexity. The calendar that the Mayans were using at the time was far superior to the calendar that the Europeans were using when they discovered the Americas. Going to places like this are not just about, hey, let's have fun, sand, and sun. It's also like when we were in Cuba, and us being businessmen, entrepreneurs, we're walking around looking at a culture that went into a black hole 60 years ago in Cuba. And we talked as businessmen about what happens to a culture, to a people, when they're living in this communist kind of an era. Well, there in Chichen Itza, we were doing the same kind of thing, thinking through the lens of a businessman. And what is it that fuels and sustains and ultimately, in this case, destroys a community, a culture, a people? It's like the podcast where we've talked about our family's trips through Europe and looking at the castles that are up on hills and thinking about the fiefdoms and the peoples that lived there for hundreds and hundreds of years. How did those systems exist economically? What are the driving engines behind this? So it's pretty cool to be in spaces like this too, where we're doing more than just, hey, let's go zip line or let's go parasail or something. But you know what? Let's look at what drives these things, because we're all entrepreneurs. And maybe we can take some stuff back from that to our present day culture and be more intentional in the way we're shaping the communities that our families live in.
Yeah, I remember the night of that trip, we just had some great, rich conversation around the table because we were entrepreneurs and kind of had that hat on. And I think that just speaks to this point that we came up with, is it's so fun to do intentional travel together with like-minded families, because the guys can talk some business stuff because of what we're seeing and what's going on around us. The kids get to pair off together and play together, and the wives are talking about the same kind of issues and struggles and fun stuff they get to do because of the lifestyles we've been leading. So I love that we're going to become even more intentional about doing these kind of trips, at least annually, for this community that we're building, and just say, come along, make your next vacation a little more intentional.
Yes, many more adventures to come for the EFM family, and I cannot wait to join you guys on the next one. So what about you? Can you be spontaneous and open to a last-minute trip or an opportunity to really spend time, not only another friend that you have, but maybe combine your families together and really do some life together on vacation? Not as an escape or as a getaway, but a come to and a deepening of your relationship. Share some rich experiences together. If it makes sense, ask yourself, is it the right season? Talk that through with the people that matter most to you. But go after that adventure. If that's calling you and you can make it happen, go for it.